We have a record number of people here this evening. So if there's like one single seat next to you, can you do that movie theater thing where you like slide in and leave open seats on the end so people can get in? You want me to start? Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Maybe the last few people in the back can take their seats. Welcome, everyone, to the JUFJ Heschel Awards. For those of you... For those of you who I don't yet know, my name is Rabbi Shira Stutman, and I am here tonight as a JUFJ board member. And so it is really a true privilege to get to stand in front of you tonight representing an organization with which I am very, very proud to be associated. So I want to begin this evening with a story. It comes from this week's Torah portion, this week's reading from the Bible, from our scripture, and it tells the story of our forebears, Abraham and Sarah, who, upon hearing God's call to change, left their birthplace, left the only place that they had ever known, and journeyed to the land of Canaan. So, according to our tradition, Abraham had been living in the land of Ur, which was a land of corrupt politicians and gross materialism and idol worship. The more things change, the more they stay the same, they say. God spoke to Abraham, and God told him to leave. God said the famous words. What did God say? God said, Lech lecha, right? Go out from your land, from your birthplace, to the land that I will show you. God said to Abraham and Sarah that they didn't have to be paralyzed, that they could go out, that they could take a risk and move forward to a holier place. And that, of course, they did. So we can imagine how difficult it must have been for them. The culture in the land of Ur was unjust, but it was the culture that they knew. We can imagine that there must have been this moment of recognition for them, this moment of, it doesn't have to be like this. We could pursue a new life, a new way of being. And so they went out, lech lecha. They went with all their people, right? It was the original story of community of activists going out, moving toward engagement, moving away from apathy and passivity. We imagine it, just perhaps, like the moment when we discovered JUFJ, an organization informed by Jewish values of pursuing justice and working for freedom for all of humanity, for each of us created in God's image. An organization founded 16 years ago by an intergenerational group of longtime activists and younger community organizers, each one an Abraham or a Sarah, each one refusing to settle. People who understood, as we do today, that a vibrant metropolitan area empowers all of its residents, the rich and the poor, in every single ward in every county, of every ethnicity, of every race, sexuality, and religion. That we are in it together, and we are responsible for each other, and so we have to act accordingly. We have no other choice. Lech lecha. We must all go out. Over the years, Jews United for Justice has become the Jewish voice, advocating for policies that will reduce poverty in the DC area. It has played a leading role in efforts to raise the minimum wage, to expand access to paid sick days, to make DC's tax system more equitable, to win marriage equality and the Maryland Dream Act. No matter how many times I read that list, I get goosebumps every single time. Because just a few years ago, JUFJ was this scrappy little organization. And now people are knocking down our doors asking for help because we've established a reputation that when we get involved in an issue, we can make a difference. Some of the elected leaders and candidates who have helped to make that difference are here tonight. So I want to particularly welcome Brianne Nadeau, Alyssa Silverman, Charles Allen, Kenyon McDuffie, Muriel Bowser, Tommy Wells, Jamie Raskin, Brian Feldman, Mark Ehrlich. Senator Mikulski couldn't be here, but we want to say thank you to her rep, Lori Mintzner, who is here this evening. That's an amazing list of people here. And I just want to make absolutely clear that these officials and these candidates are here because of you, right? Because of the activists who are here and because of the work that you've done. So JUFJ, kind of like the scrappy Hebrew nomads of a few thousand years ago, has forced important change and helped to change history. We are indebted to all those who support JUFJ's important work. Tonight, though, we are especially grateful for Sam Jewler, for Ruti and Nicole Berner-Kadish, and for Liz Dunst. So over the course of the next hour, I want you to stay attuned to listen for each of their Lech Lecha moments, right? The moments of going out, the moments when they realized a change needed to happen. I want you to hear their moments of inspiration, not just because those are stories they tell, but because they're here to inspire you as well. Because we know we can make a difference in our small part of the world. Just because Abraham and Sarah left Ur doesn't mean that they kept themselves away from politics altogether. This week's Torah portion also has the amazing story of Abraham negotiating a peace treaty between a bunch of ancient Near Eastern kings. I'm not going to go into detail. Actually, it gets quite detailed. But suffice to say that some of these kings were quite corrupt themselves, but Abraham stayed engaged, and so can we. Our tradition teaches that we must, in fact, even when cynicism crouches at the door. JUFJ demands Lech Lecha moments for every Washingtonian, for the gentrifiers and for the gentrified, for the influential and for the powerless, for the Jewish and for the Jewish. JUFJ demands that we be inspired to action and that we fight for justice. It demands that we do God's sacred work in this world. And if you're an atheist in this room, all I need to say is it demands that we do what is right. JUFJ reminds us that the sum is greater than its parts and that fighting for justice is always better when we do it in community. Abraham and Sarah, by the way, they did not lech lecha on their own. They left, the Torah teaches us, with all the souls they had made. So what does that mean, the ancient rabbis ask? What is this idea, all these souls that they had made? It means that they went forward with all the people that they had inspired to godly action. JUFJ is our inspiration to action. It's our inspiration, but we in this room are the ones who have to do the heavy lifting. The world as it is not the world as it could be, so we actually have no choice. We, every single person in this room, we are lucky to get to be here tonight, supporting this amazing, scrappy organization. I am privileged to sit on its board of directors. All of Washington should be grateful to Carla and Elizabeth and Holly and Jacob and Allie and Hannah and Molly and Rebecca, an amazing staff. And I also want to welcome Sam Jewler to the JUFJ staff. He's going to be starting as our newest organizer in just a month. There is a lot to be grateful for tonight, and we should count our blessings, one of which is JUFJ, which inspires us every single day to lech lecha, to go out, to walk forward as a community, working to make this world the place that we all know that it can be. Thank you, everyone, for being here this evening. And now, it is my real privilege to introduce a man who actually needs no introduction, the thoughtful, kind, generous, and wonderful Jacob Feinspan.
Thank you, Shira. And thank you to the many people in this room who made tonight possible. I want to particularly mention the honorees, Liz, Ruti, Nicole, and Sam, for your inspiring work, and to be honest, for allowing us to honor you. Each of you have, in your own different ways, said, I really don't want to do this. I really don't like getting up in front of a group of people. And that's exactly why we're honoring you tonight, because often the people up in front of the room are the ones who gravitate towards public speaking or gravitate towards being in the spotlight. And those people deserve honor, and also people who work behind the scenes deserve honor. And we want to lift up all kinds of leaders in our community. Thank you to your families and to your communities for coming together to help us fill this room. I'm a little worried that the fire marshal might come by. It is awesome to look out and to see this sanctuary so full. And thank you to anybody who brought a friend. This is how we grow. This is how we make an impact in the world. And then lastly, the incredible JUFJ staff, both past and current, who do fantastic work every day, and particularly to Carla Hashley and to Rebecca Ennin, who have worked for months to make this evening a special evening, working a lot in the night. I imagine dreaming about this evening, not always in good ways. And I think that we'd all agree that it's really special because of their work. So thank you. Last December, when my son Noam was almost 3 months old, I strapped him into a baby carrier and headed to City Hall for the final vote on paid sick leave and minimum wage. I couldn't imagine a better first political experience for Noam. As the council meeting dragged on, sitting among friends and partners from across the city that we'd been working with for years, I got worried. Would they try to weaken the legislation? Could we beat back a bad amendment? In the end, my stress was unwarranted, maybe a result of a few too many sleepless nights with the baby. The bill passed unanimously, without discussion. We didn't even know it had happened until Council Member Mary Che, sitting in her seat on the dais, looked at me, raised her eyebrows, and mouthed the words, "You won." Without a word of opposition, the DC Council had passed 2 pieces of legislation that just a few months earlier had been the subject of aggressive debate. A few dozen activists and advocates scrambled out into the hallways and, almost without believing it, started hugging each other and grinning and cheering until the guards told us to shush. We had arrived at this moment we dreamed of. Then we celebrated with burgers, nachos, and yes, beer with the baby. Over 3 long years, JUFJ, our allies, people in this room, and thousands more like us from across the city had to transform these issues from impossible to inevitable. That's what we can accomplish together. The past year has been an incredible one. We got paid sick days for everyone in DC, including tens of thousands of workers who hadn't had them. We raised the minimum wage in DC, Montgomery County, Prince George's County, and across the state of Maryland. Last month, we opened a Baltimore wing of JUFJ with a full-time staff member and a steadily growing base of leaders. We also launched a sister organization, the JUFJ Campaign Fund, which is already one of the largest and most effective grassroots political operations in the city. In April, 5 out of the 6 of our candidates won, including 2 first-time candidates in tight races. Our team has grown. We now have a staff of 9 and a budget of nearly $600,000, which makes us one of the biggest organizing groups in the region. That growth and success isn't an accident. In a time that our country faces huge challenges and inequalities, in a time when international and national injustices are mirrored all around us in our city and region, regular people like us in this room are saying it's time for change. We all dream about living in a world that matches our values. We know that there are enough resources in the world to go around, that we can and should be able to make a society that knows how to share and how to honor the divine image and dignity of each person in all of creation. But it's shockingly hard to know how to really bring that world closer to reality. JUFJ has grown because we've managed to connect dozens, hundreds, and even thousands of people like us with the critical issues that we can make a difference on. And though fighting for social change is never easy, if it was, we would have won already, it is fun. We've gone trick-or-treating and bar hopping. We've had parties at local businesses to thank them for putting paid sick days policies and plied our volunteers with pizza, bagels, and some now somewhat legendary vegan fried chicken. Even simple planning meetings have a kind of activist electricity when we get smart, dedicated people together, dream big, and work to make our plans real. It's the excitement that comes from finding a way to really act on our hopes for the world. By forming a community of people that share the same dreams and figuring out how regular people like all of us can make our voices heard effectively, we've been able to bring a lot of those hopes into reality. When I look into the future, I see a vibrant JUFJ that is out and proud, making our whole region more just, from Ballston to Baltimore. I see thousands of Jews coming together with our neighbors of many faiths and races to demand and win equality and opportunity for everyone. I want us, both JUFJ and our region's Jewish community, to be known as the people who can make implausible campaigns for social change inevitable, who can move issues and policies that no one else can. And you can help us make it there. So many people here have given generously to JUFJ, and we're proud to be doing the work with your support. In addition to money, though, we can use your help right now. In Montgomery County, we're working to get paid sick days for everyone in the county and the state of Maryland. We all get sick. And if we have kids, you know inevitably they get sick. Everyone deserves a paid sick day to care for themselves and their families. This benefit shouldn't just be reserved for white-collar workers, as it is today. In DC, we're fighting to get this city to commit to real affordable housing. This is the central issue facing our city. We need to invest vastly more resources into housing programs across the spectrum, from homelessness services to preserving and creating thousands of new affordable units. The district is at a crossroads. If we want to remain the vibrant and diverse city that drew so many of us to this region, we can't afford to treat gentrification and displacement as individual or personal challenges. There are policy solutions, and together we can make them real. We're also working towards taking on a second DC campaign. The U.S. is the only industrialized country in the world that doesn't give paid leave to new parents. DC can be at the forefront of the state-by-state fight for paid family leave for everyone, and not just for parents of new babies, but for people who need to take care of sick relatives or partners or for their own parents. In Baltimore, we're looking for people who want to be part of choosing a new campaign there, people who want to join the Jeremiah Fellowship and get trained on Judaism, social justice, and effective activism, and people who we simply have to be connected to. You know, the people like us in Baltimore. Finally, the JFJ Campaign Fund is hard at work now up through Election Day in 9 days, making calls, knocking doors, and spreading the word for our endorsed candidates. Elections are when leaders listen to us the most, and we want them to hear us loud and clear. One of the most important things you can do is to tell your friends and family to vote for strong progressives. You can visit www.jufjcampaignfund.org to find our voter guide. And I want to particularly thank our endorsed candidates who are here: Smitty, who is running for Attorney General; Alyssa Silverman, who is running for the at-large council seat; and Brianne Nadeau, Kenya McDuffie, and Charles Allen, who are all running for ward council seats. Thank you for being here tonight. Community organizing is based on people power, and and we never miss an opportunity to ask for your help to move the work forward. So I want you to take off your name tag and pull out the small commitment card that we've inserted behind your name tag. Tricky, eh? Just fold over the corner of anything you're interested in helping with, and then put the card back in your name tag. It's quick and simple. There's no pens, there's no writing, and we'll collect them from you at the end of the evening. If there's anybody that doesn't have a commitment card, please raise your hand, and we have extras. I've got one over here. Oh, we did a good job of stuffing this year. So this is your chance to let us know how you want to help make our region a better place in the coming year. Can you help JUFJ expand affordable housing investments or create groundbreaking paid family leave programs in DC? Ensure that everyone in Maryland can stay home when they're sick. Can you help us connect with someone in Baltimore? Or do you want to volunteer with the JFK Campaign Fund and help elect leaders who share our values and priorities over the next, volunteer over the next week and help elect leaders for the next 4 years? If what I've said now hasn't convinced you, I want you to think about the people we're honoring tonight. You know that Liz, Ruti, Nicole, and Sam would do it. You can too. You don't have to be an expert. If you are an expert, that's great. But no matter your skill level or your job title, your opinions and your voice do matter. The dreams we share of a fair society for everyone are not impossible. They're just implausible for now. JUFJ has grown from strength to strength in recent years. Which implausible dream will you help us make inevitable this year? Thank you very much.
There's actually one more candidate in the room who we just want to call out, Reverend Grayson Hagler, and thank him for his support, and we are grateful to work with him as well. So we will, in just a few minutes, transition to our awardees and to hearing a little bit of their stories. You know, telling stories is such an integral part of what it means to walk with the Jewish people. And so I want to just for a few minutes speak about Abraham Joshua Heschel and Alisa Froman, who are the two people in whose memories the awards will be given this evening. I'm going to do it by just quoting them. I could talk about them for a long, long time, but I think there's nothing more powerful in teaching Torah than in hearing other people's personal Torah, hearing the sacred teachings that they have to give over to this world. So Dr. Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel was one of the most important theologians of the 20th century and who spoke, unlike almost any other person I have ever read, about the importance of what we say in Hebrew is letaken olam b'malchut Shaddai, to heal the world. Tikkun olam is a phrase that I'm sure most of the people in this room have had, but we often forget the second half, malchut Shaddai, so that it truly becomes a godly place. A community like JUFJ is quite extraordinary because it doesn't only have religious Jews as part of it. It also has cultural Jews, and it also has people who are just walking alongside the Jewish people. And so the way that we all understand God can be quite different, but the way that we understand justice can be quite similar, which is that this world is broken, but it is fixable. And that when we come together, each of us with our own lech lecha reasons, our own motivation for going out, we can make it a better place. Now, if anyone in this room has been part of a one-on-one, which I assume that just about every single person in this room has been part of, you know what I learned very quickly in my first one-on-one 20 years ago, which is that an integral part of it is telling stories, right? You explore your own story to figure out what connects you to the issue at hand. And it's through your own story that you gain the lens to teach and to learn and ultimately to go out and act. And so Abraham Joshua Heschel, in his writing about each of us and our Lech Lecha moments, speaks quite beautifully about what it is that can motivate us to act. He writes, "We must act even when inclination and vested interests would militate against equality. It is an audacity of faith that redeems us. To have faith is to be ahead of one's normal thoughts, to transcend confused motivations, to lift oneself by one's bootstraps. Mere knowledge or belief is too feeble to be a cure of man's hostility to man. The only remedy is personal sacrifice. To abandon, to reject what seems dear and even plausible for the sake of the greater truth. To do more than one is ready to understand for the sake of God. Required is a breakthrough, a leap of action. It is the deed that will purify the heart. It is the deed that will sanctify the mind. The deed is the test, the trial, and the risk. When you think of what Abraham and Sarah did a few thousand years ago, they took a leap of action. And sometimes for each of us, I hope there has been a moment where we had to take a leap of action, where we had to act because it was our job and because we weren't sure that anyone else would do it if we didn't. So in a few minutes, you're going to hear from a number of people, not only about their Lech Lecha moments, but about their leap of action moments. But before you do, I just want to speak for a minute about Alisa Froman, whose birthday we marked last week, and who also was quite a wonderful theologian and would have become a rabbi had she not died way too young at the age of 29. Alisa Froman is also a person who probably needs no introduction to a lot of the people in this room, but for the few of you who didn't get to meet her, let me just introduce you. She was an extraordinary friend, an extraordinary activist, and a thought leader, not just for her own circles, not just for the people she knew, not just for the people she worked with, but for everyone she interacted with on a daily basis, whether she was walking down the street, whether she was sitting in her office, or whether she was agitating at some rally or another or on Capitol Hill. It's taught in the ancient Jewish text, "B'makom she'ein ish hishtadel liyot ish," in a place where there are no human beings. You should strive to be a human being. Abraham Joshua Heschel, Alisa Froman, are two people who, wherever they were, strove to be human beings. They could be in a room of people just like all of you, all of us striving together to be human beings. They could be in a room of people who weren't living up to God's plan for us, let us say. And in every place, they stood strong with integrity, and therefore inspiring not just the people around them, but all of us to come. A quick piece from Alisa Froman's own writings about Lech Lecha. Growing up, the voices from the Jewish tradition that most spoke to me were those of the prophets. They told us that as Jews, we must do justly, love mercy, and walk humbly. Let justice flow like a mighty stream, to cast off the yoke of oppression. To me, their words were a call to construct safe, ethical, and strong communities, a call to each of us to live a life of responsible action. My work in the world this year and for all my years to come is to be worthy of the gift of life. By listening to all those voices of Jewish inspiration from the past, in order to make the world, the one that we all share, and the one that exists in each connection between two people, a better place. Ken Yehi Ratzon, so may it be for all of us. It is now my privilege, what I get to do now is introduce the introducers. Just a few sentences on each of them so you'll know who has been chosen tonight to speak about Sam and to speak about Liz and to speak about Ruti and Nicole. First up, Rabbi Michael Fischbach is going to speak about Ruti and Nicole. He is the senior rabbi of Temple Shalom of Chevy Chase and has a long relationship with Ruti, Nicole, and their 3 kids. We're also at that time going to call up State Senator Jamie Raskin, who is also a friend and colleague of Ruti and Nicole's. After, we're going to call up Allison Gainham, Monica Kamen, and Kenny Nero, who are going to speak for Sam. They are amazing activists and organizers who have worked closely with Sam in local campaigns for social change. And finally, Acharon Chaviv, we say, the final one is beloved, Judy Lichtman, the founding director of the Women's Legal Defense Fund, now the National Partnership for Women and Families, who has worked with Liz for 40 years to advance equality in our country. Each of our honorees this evening are going to receive 2 gifts. They are going to receive not only a beautiful piece of artwork, but also a gift certificate to comfort one's shoes, because of course, what does an activist need but a good pair of shoes to go out and walk the halls for justice? I'd like to call up Rabbi Michael Fischbach and State Senator Raskin.
How do we follow a promise of shoes have to be gifts from the soul? Dear friends, Rabbi Stutman, With thanks to Jacob Feinspan, Rabbi Richmond, and their great team, to Rebecca and Carla and others for their work organizing, coordinating this evening, and all the wonderful work of Jews United for Justice. And with a moment to acknowledge my pleasure in being here on an evening which also honors Liz Dunst, whom I have known for many years, and Sam Jewler, I'm honored to have been asked to play a role in introducing my congregants, colleagues, and friends, Ruti and Nicole Berner-Kadish. And as they are being honored as a couple, I would like to speak of them first and foremost as a family. We read in Pirkei Avot, Va'al Tomar, Lichshe ipaneh eshneh, shema lo tipaneh. Do not say, when I have leisure, I will study. Perhaps you will never have leisure. And since we also learn Lo ha-midrash ha'ikar ele ha-ma'aseh, it is not study that is the most important thing, but action. I think I'm safe in reading these ancient words in the following way. Do not say, when we have enough time, I will be involved in the work of the world. We may never have enough time. I had the privilege of meeting Ruti and Nicole in one significant setting almost 13 years ago. Since then, I have watched and benefited from their energy, involvement, and commitment to Jewish values and Jewish community. And they do all that they do, emerging out of the busy lives of modern parents and family commitments. There's work and carpools, transportation and camping trips, work travel and family life, juggling activities in the neighborhood, appreciation for nature, care for others, outreach and inclusion, and political involvement that runs the gamut of issues that are important for the kind of world I want to live in. I'm amazed at the ground they cover, the good they do, and above all, the communal life they weave around them. Malcolm Gladwell noted in his book, The Tipping Point, that there are those in the world who are connectors or multipliers whose energy leads to bringing other people around them and leads to those other people finding common ground and ongoing connections with each other. That is what this family has meant to me, to my family, and to our spiritual community. There's great wisdom in the choice to honor them for their work, not only for the tasks they pursue, but the sense of solidarity they are able to build. And if Ruti and Nicole are, in their way, Rodfei Shalom, pursuers of justice and peace, I am reminded as well that the word shalom really means completeness, wholeness, for they are a living reminder we can do it all, or at least we can try, and we have to try. We must look inward towards our family and outward towards the world. Real justice comes not from one at the expense of the other, but both together, values lived out. And to allude to Heschel, who famously referred, since there was a reference to shoes earlier, to his feet praying when he was at Selma. It's all about the way we walk in the world. In this way, I believe Ruti Berner-Kadish and Nicole Berner-Kadish, individually and together, in the values they are passing on to their children and in the impact on and in all of their communities, are richly deserving recipients of this prestigious award.
Good evening. It's an incredible honor and thrill to be with my favorite Jewish organization in my own synagogue to celebrate two extraordinary friends, colleagues, and constituents from District 20 in Maryland. It's campaign season, as has been mentioned, but we're here in a nonpartisan spirit, so I wanted to invoke our last great Republican president, Abraham Lincoln, who spoke of government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And this has been the tantalizing dream of American democracy. And I'm thrilled to have a lot of constituents and friends, but none more exemplary than Nicole and Ruti, who've dedicated their lives to making that dream come true. Bayard Rustin once talked about the fact that every community needs a group of angelic troublemakers. And where you will find angelic troublemakers, you will find Nicole and Ruti there, fighting not for a better world for other people, but a better world for all of us, including them. And what impresses me so much about their struggle is they don't distinguish between the fight for their rights as human beings and as a family and the rights of everybody else together. So the Bible, and I should say I'm having some nightmare flashbacks to bar mitzvah at this point, but I will make one reference to the Bible, which is the Bible talks about exemplary prophets. That is, people who not through their teachings, but who through their lives teach the rest of us how to live. And that's the way that I think of these guys. So I am here in an official capacity, and it's very exciting for me because, most of the legislation that I end up being the floor leader on and fighting for, like marriage equality, like abolition of the death penalty, like restoration of voting rights for ex-felons, like medical marijuana. Most of those do not pass unanimously, and to our friends in D.C., we say, more power to you. Maryland, it's not quite like that, and our legislation doesn't pass unanimously, but this is something that I have the unanimous consent of the entire Maryland General Assembly for, and that's why this is a thrill for me. And it says this, I'm here to present an official proclamation to you guys. The Maryland General Assembly, be it hereby known to all that sincerest congratulations are offered to Ruti and Nicole Berner-Kadish in recognition of exemplary devotion and extraordinary service to the people of Maryland and the world in the cause of peace, labor rights, social justice, and the equal rights of all families, presented on this 26th day of October 2014 by Senator Jamie Raskin on behalf of the entire membership.
Officially bestow upon you your artwork and your gift certificate, but I'm going to leave it here so that you can have your words, say a few words. Thank you. Photo op.
Yes, we need a photo op.
Excuse me, just a quick unscheduled photo op.
No, don't you be here? Yes, yes.
Wow, it's a bit overwhelming. Thank you, everyone. I know I won't mention everyone, but thank you, JUFJ, and everyone who's here, and all our friends, and everyone in our communities, our many communities. It's pretty awesome. I was thinking, sort of like, well, people made mention to a bat mitzvah. I was like, kind of having my bat mitzvah, but this might be better than reading Torah, so I don't know. Anyway. At least 2 decades ago, in a conversation probably about feminism and gender and nature versus nurture, we had a lot of those back then, a friend of ours contended that parenthood makes people apolitical. Knowing we wanted children, we both chafed at the comment, and yet we have circled back to think about her comment often over the years, wondering whether she could be right.
Well, there was some truth to her contention. As new and very sleep-deprived parents, some days just brushing our teeth by 2 p.m. seemed like a major accomplishment. And if in those early days of parenthood, Matan was still alive at the end of the day, well, we felt Dayenu. Thankfully, that condition didn't last very long, and by the time of our second child, Neve, we could manage and strive for much more than brushing our teeth and keeping our children alive.
But more importantly, within 3 months of the birth of Matan, now 18, something much more primal and unassailable motivated our desire, even need to take a stand. Surely prior to having children, we were driven to engage in different issues. We were driven by Jewish and universal notions of justice and equality, And as women's studies majors, we embraced and espoused feminist theory and later queer and post-colonial theories. And while inspired by Abraham Joshua Heschel, we sat intellectually at the feet of Susanna Heschel. This, however, parenthood was qualitatively different. It was part mama cat with the fierceness and fearlessness that entails, partly the responsibility to be dugma ishit, a role model, and partly the urgency of ensuring our kids a better world. Parenting, as I'm sure many here know, is a very humbling experience. It calls into question many of our strongest convictions. We learned that while we had many affiliations and our identities were multiple, nuanced, and intersectional, our primary category of affiliation has and continues to rest firmly in our identity as part of a Jewish community.
We, a red diaper baby and a daughter of a labor Zionist, increasingly embedded our Jewish social justice work and our family life within Jewish tradition, history, and values. In hindsight, this isn't very surprising, seeing as it is a path that we each began walking in our teenage years. Having both grown up in overtly non-religious households, for both of us in different ways, being Jewish was not until later in life about faith or rituals. Growing up, I knew nothing about Avraham Avinu or King David, about the Maccabees or Queen Esther. My Jewish heroes and the martyrs of our faith were Emma Goldman and the women who perished in the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire. They were Margaret Sanger and Andrew Goodman and Mickey Schwerner. It was these Jewish heroes in the movements for workers' rights and women's equality, civil rights, and reproductive liberty that formed the basis of my American Jewish identity. Standing with my parents as they marched against the war in Vietnam and respecting picket lines was our form of Jewish ritual. And as a secular Israeli, being Jewish was being Israeli. Judaism was all but irrelevant to my Israeli identity. Ironically, the values I learned in my youth group grew from the same ideologies and universal values that inspired Nicole's grandparents on the picket line. It was not until well after bat mitzvah age that either of us ever lit Shabbat candles or even set foot in a synagogue. For me, it was during a visit to Auschwitz when I was 13 years old and touring Poland with an American folk dance company, where I began to understand that Jewish life and history extended far beyond what I'd ever been told or experienced. Upon returning to the United States, I independently sought out and joined a synagogue. And NIFTY, the Reform Youth Movement, and Jewish Summer Camp became my home for the next 6 years, and that experience has continued to inform my life ever since. And for me, the paradigm shift came at 16, when I spent the summer at Camp Young Judea and at Tel Yehuda as a member of the Israeli Scout delegation. Welcoming the Shabbat on the riverbanks made a profound impression. I learned both that there were many ways to be Jewish and that Judaism and Jewish life can be deeply meaningful and worthwhile. And so now, as parents, we seek to pass down our Jewish values and tradition and history to our own children. And we seek to live the values of our foremothers and forefathers. And so it made perfect sense for us to channel our local community activism through Jews United for Justice. JUFJ gives a voice to the Jewish history and values to which we seek to link our lives, both as individuals and as a family. We love that JUFJ is a place for millennials and retirees and everyone in between. There's JFK Kippah, religious Jews, and completely secular, or dare I say alienated Jews, to work together as Jews toward common, concrete, achievable, local goals, and to actually achieve them. We are deeply grateful for all of JUFJ's work and for the work of so many in this room, and feel tremendously privileged to be part of it. We are humbled to have been chosen to receive this award, and a little embarrassed by it, and overwhelmed by the honor and the company of both Sam and Liz, and the incredible awardees who have come before us. We sincerely hope that our efforts in the years to come and our involvement in the years to come will prove ourselves indeed worthy of this praise. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Allie Gannam, and I'd like to spend a little time tonight telling you about the moment that I discovered that Sam Jewler was the real deal. And just as a little bit of a spoiler alert, it was before I'd actually met him. So I was having lunch with a friend and telling him about the creative writing workshop that I'd recently started teaching at the DC jail. My friend got all excited and asked me, "Oh, do you know Sam Jewler? He's trying to get a group together to form a library at the jail. You should really get in touch with him." The following day, I ran into a second friend. "Oh, you teach at the jail? Do you know Sam Jewler?" This Sam Jewler guy is starting to sound kind of important, I thought to myself. Maybe I should get in touch with him. But before I could even sit down to write the email, I kid you not, I had a third friend ask me if I knew Sam Jewler and if I'd heard about his efforts to bring a library to the jail. So clearly, Sam was the real deal. I did eventually have the great privilege and pleasure of meeting and working alongside Sam, and it was an unforgettable experience. Sam is one of the most capable and tireless organizers I have ever met, and I really do mean organizer in the purest sense of the word. He encouraged everyone in our movement to testify in front of the city council, uplifting our voices and enriching our perspectives. He vowed never to interview with a reporter about our campaign until that reporter talked to a returning citizen first. He tweeted at Tommy Wells about the library project all the livelong day. And then in typical, thoughtful Sam Jewler fashion, he sent Councilmember Wells a box of cupcakes to thank him for his support of the library project. Sam is genuinely skilled at the art of building bridges, bringing communities together, and harnessing old and new media to make powerful, radical demands for social change. Sam, you are the realest deal there ever was, and I'm so glad we finally met, so congratulations.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ken Nero. I'm what many folks would call a field Negro, and that only means I work in the fields of social justice on a variety of efforts. And I'd like to briefly discuss one of those efforts. Not too long ago, near the start of the DC Jail Library Coalition Project, I had the pleasure of meeting Sam and was asked to join him and others in that initiative. Suffice to say, I was more than honored to be in the presence of Sam and other organizers of such high caliber working together on such an essential project. But what sticks out to me the most as I got to know Sam would be his humility. Sam understands and resists with effortless modesty the pernicious neoliberal pitfall of self-indulgent individualism. He is quick to acknowledge everyone that he works with and the various projects he touches. He disapproves of media coverage focusing on him, and he is always ready to introduce colleagues in struggle as key fellow organizers. Selfless, compassionate, and righteous, I tip my hat, if one would fit over my afro, to you, my dear brother. Congratulations.
Hi, everyone. It's really good to see all of you. My name is Monica Kamen, and it was my pleasure to have been the DC organizer here at JUFJ for the past 3 years, and to have the honor of organizing with all of you fine people sitting here, and especially with Sam. I want to tell you a story about Sam. For those of you who know me, on people's birthdays, I like to ask them the 3 things that they liked most about the previous year, and the 3 things they're looking forward to most in the coming year. So on Sam's birthday this year, I asked him about his 3 things, and he said that last year he liked winning paid sick days and higher minimum wage, and winning a library for the DC jail. And then he said that in the coming year, he was most looking forward to tonight, not because he felt excited or felt like he deserved to be recognized, but because it was challenging him to be a better leader and a better activist. Now keep in mind, this was on a day when the night before he had attended a meeting on how to advocate for affordable housing, and then he spent his lunch hour at a candidate interview for the JUFJ Campaign Fund, and then that evening he was going to a meeting for the JUFJ campaign selection team, and this was on his birthday. And still, despite being one of the most committed, hardworking activists that I've ever known, he still felt he needed to challenge himself to do more and to do better. And this is Sam Jewler. His commitment is inspiring, his passion is contagious, and his humility and modesty makes him one of the most gentle and wonderful people to be around. He loves his community and his city, and he believes that the world can be a better place if people just show up and put the time in to make it better. So, Sam, it's been a true honor to organize with you and learn from you, and to have you as one of my dearest and closest friends. Mazel tov on this honor. You deserve it.
Those are some amazing speaking. Thank you so much. All right.
This is for you.
Thank you.
Here, why don't you give it
Okay. Yeah. Wow. Some tough speeches to follow. Most people only get to have one bar mitzvah. I'm very lucky to have a second one tonight. JUFJ has just been such a big part of my life. It's such an honor to get this award. A few years ago, was a very passionate activist, as a lot of people know. And now I feel that I am still a passionate activist, and I know how to organize a little bit better, so how to funnel that passion into a little more productivity. And I really thank JUFJ for teaching me that through Heschel, through Jeremiah. I could just read down this embarrassingly long list of things I have on my name tag. Jeremiah, paid sick days, core team I was on, doing candidate endorsement deliberation processes, and now our affordable housing work, which I'm very happy that we've been able to come together as a community and get 90% of the units in the Old Hebrew Home to be affordable housing. I'm looking forward to some more big affordable housing wins soon to come. And I really have to thank Monica. The paid sick days campaign a few years ago, I think, did look like one of those implausible campaigns. And not only did we end up with a unanimous victory and unanimous vote in the DC Council extending paid sick days to restaurant workers, but Monica really organized the campaign in a way that built leadership and empowered people. And when I took on the jail library campaign, it was right at the end of the paid sick days campaign, and it was because I felt all this energy and this confidence from this paid sick days victory that, and on top of that, the skills, the organizing skills and the knowledge of DC government, that I really felt like I could take on this jail library campaign. So I really thank you, Monica, for teaching me those things. And I want to say, so I think JUFJ does a really good job of doing campaigns that are directed by the most impacted communities and really taking direction from the people who are really impacted. So I wanted to give a little context about so Free Minds is this amazing group that does reading and writing workshops with youth in the DC jail. And Gary and Sherman are here tonight from Free Minds, and it's just an amazing group. And so they brought up this issue that there was no library at the DC jail. And as the paid sick days campaign was coming to a successful close, I was like, wow, this sounds like a campaign we could win, get a library at the jail. Who would be against that? Let's just do it. And so I interviewed a few folks who had spent time in the DC jail, who Free Minds connected me with. And I just want to read some things that I learned from them, just to give some context. So one of them said, at the DC jail, you'll be lucky if you could find a book through stealing pages of somebody else's book. And for the guys who do get a book over there, it's like a luxury. They value it. And so they may read that book 3 or 4 times before they even pass it on, just to have something to do. Another person said, in the DC jail, there's a legal library, but there's no leisure library. And why that is, I don't understand, because books are life and knowledge and education, and it's the only outlet that we have, the only piece of sanity that we have. So, obviously, books are awesome, and I think they're even more important for folks who are incarcerated because it can be a really dehumanizing environment and a really obviously difficult environment, and there aren't opportunities necessarily to improve your literacy or to prepare yourself for a new job or for an educational opportunity. And so working with Kenny and Allison was amazing. I mean, like they said, like a lot of the people involved had not gone to city council before, either to testify in a hearing or to bring cupcakes to a council member. And it was all those things, like really stepping up to the plate, and like they do incredible things already, but I mean, joining onto this kind of campaign and being part of the strategy discussions and going to the council and testifying and all that kind of stuff is really what made it happen. And I'm happy to announce that on October 1st, the $300,000 of city funding that we won for the jail library went into effect. Yeah, pretty awesome. And this past Thursday, they just hired a full-time librarian. And they'll be hiring, I believe, a part-time staffer as well, and then buying a lot of books. So I think now, yeah, a lot of books. So now that they're hiring these librarians, I think we may not be running for office, but we can say that we are job creators. I also have to thank my parents. I think my mom's crying a little bit. That's very touching. Appreciate it. I'm very fortunate to have a mother, Andrea Rosen, with whom I can have spirited debates about whether we've done enough turnout for the next Alyssa Silverman canvas. Alyssa is a fellow Heschel awardee and Jeremiah fellow, November 4th. Am I allowed to say all this, Jacob? I can say whatever I want. We also endorsed Reverend Hagler and Smitty, so please go vote. And my father, Sam Jewler, who is really a role model in a lot of ways, and has taught me a lot about persevering through challenging circumstances with poise and balance and a little bit of wit. So thank you. Family is very important to me. I'm a third-generation Washingtonian. My father's father, the original Sam Jewler, ran a family corner store in Adams Morgan, and he worked really hard. I never knew him, but from what I hear, he worked 6 days a week, 60-plus hours a week. And, my bubby had a good government job, and so she made good money, but still Sam had to work that much just to make ends meet for our family to be able to live in D.C. And just hearing that story, and I think he would have Sundays off, maybe come home and have a cigar and some chicken schmaltz. Didn't matter what food the chicken schmaltz was on, it was just mostly chicken schmaltz. But just hearing like the stories about him working that hard really made me understand that like these numbers of like housing prices and wages are not just numbers, they're more than that. They're really about how much time you're able to spend with your family. If you are able to come home and have more than 1 day a week with your kids. They're about whether you can live in the place that you want to live in, the city you want to live in, the neighborhood that you grew up in. And we know today that there are tens of thousands of families in D.C. that are facing this very real threat of displacement. A lot of people feel that the city doesn't want them anymore. We enjoy our blessings of the new amenities that we get and the growing prosperity, but there's also a lot of growing inequality. And I think that the people in this room really understand that it's our obligation to take that on. We can enjoy what we have, and we also have to recognize that what comes with that is a responsibility to, when landlords are threatening their tenants and trying to get their tenants to move out and letting conditions deteriorate and letting rats and roaches overwhelm buildings because they want tenants to get fed up and move out so that they can renovate and sell to wealthier people. We have to step up and take action. And this is happening, this is a real thing. When there are tenants doubling rents overnight, one day you are paying $900 a month to live in a rent-controlled building, and the next day you're being told you have to pay $1,800. We can't accept this. We have to stand up and take action when this happens. And so Rabbi Heschel said a lot of things. One thing he said is, in a free society, some are guilty, all are responsible. And I think that really applies to us today. I think that we are a group of people that really understands that and takes it to heart. And I'm extremely proud and excited to be the next DC organizer for such a responsible community. And I'm really looking forward to working with all of you. So I really hope that when I call on you this year, you'll take action. Jacob liked that. For example, fill out those commitment cards. I'll get in touch. We'll have a one-to-one. It'll be great. We have some postcards out in the hallway that we're going to deliver to the city council. We're calling for stronger rent control protections. We're calling for more money for affordable housing. Please fill out a card. It makes a difference when they get a big box of hundreds of postcards and they're all asking them to do one thing. So thank you, and I'm looking forward to working with all of you this year.